Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining us. It's time for some late night hockey. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Scabbard. Tonight we are playing the Anaheim Ducks as the Sabres start a 3-game road trip as we head into the All Star break at the end of the week. Uh, you know, um, Hope, dim as it was, is rapidly fading out on this team. I don't feel confident that what we're going through right now will have a good conclusion to this season. Um, and there are questions that need to be answered as we get past the All Star break. I think a lot of them need to be asked during the All Star break. Where are we going with this franchise? So, anyway, feel free to drop a question or a comment on the show. Just drop them in the chat, and I'll be happy to address them during the show. And with that, we'll open up the chat room. So be able to happy to answer any of your questions or comments during the show. All right, so let's talk about the Lightning game. Very disappointing game. There were some brutal turnovers early in the game. UPL had one bad minute over the last 4 games. Had one bad minute. Ends up getting 2 losses in this homestand. Um, because I mean we didn't cover the front of the net in the Vancouver game. Sabres couldn't score a goal. And we had 2 just absolutely brutal turnovers, one on the power play that led to a shorthanded goal that made it 2-0. And yeah, it was the first 2 shots of the game that the Tampa Bay Lightning had. But the Sabres never recovered. And we've seen this over and over and over again that any bit of adversity, this team just absolutely folds and has not been addressed. It doesn't feel like it's being addressed by Granato. It's not being addressed by Adams. Yeah, Adams made the trade there's been a couple minor league deals, and then there's the Eric Robinson deal, but there's not been really anything addressing what is going on with this team at all. Like they're just comfortable. I almost feels like they think that we can just wait, and eventually they're going to become a playoff team. And maybe that's true. I don't know. But it feels like we're not getting any answers from Sabres leadership. So, brutal turnovers, UPL having a bad minute. Um, the scoring gone. And we'll talk about the stat of the night here in a moment because it's shocking. But the in-game line changes just seem to be very counterproductive. Led to a loss of flow from the offense. It feels like the lineup that we'll see tonight might be the most complete offensive lineup that we've had for a while. And yes, we've had injuries, and I'm sure that impacts our scoring. But every team has injuries. And again, it goes back to the thing of any bit of adversity, and we just melt. And uh, so this team is mentally just not there, not where it needs to be a NHL caliber playoff team. But yeah, we're at this point with that loss because Tampa occupies the tied for the fourth place in in the Atlantic Division with Detroit. I think they're playing right now. Um, we're 9 points back. 36 games remain. Um, to make up that ground, we're going to have to go on just an absolute tear in the second half, and I just don't see it from this team. I don't see this team. Uh, I posted on the Facebook the Sabres Mafia group. Eventually vibes aren't enough. Eventually, the idea that we're in the process of learning how to play hockey and play winning hockey, and eventually the idea that yes, we're going to make mistakes, but we're going to learn from them, and eventually, that they will learn from these mistakes. We're not seeing it. It's not enough, and we're gonna have to start seeing accountability on the ice. Whether that is some good players taking a moment and sitting in the press box, and I don't think anybody on this team is immune from that. That wouldn't uh, hasn't had moments this season that are press box worthy. From Rasmus Dahlin has had several. Tage Thompson's not had, he's kind of in and out. Um, but there is no accountability. There's talk of accountability within the room, but that's not translating the ice. There's talk of we support our coach, but they're not playing like they support their coach on the ice. Like they're going through the motions right now. And yeah, you can score 3 goals against the Anaheims, the San Jose's, who are actually kinda hot now that Logan Couture is back, um, and, the who Chicago's of the league, and get wins, but we can't do that, the have that kind of gameplay against the Lightnings and the teams that we're immediately chasing. Forget the top teams in the league. Just the teams that we're chasing, the ones that are immediately ahead of us, the ones that we need to leapfrog over to get into a playoff spot, they're just not there. So let's talk about the stat of the night, which is shocking. But the Sabres have scored one or fewer goals in 12 games this year. So over a quarter of the games this season, the Sabres have only managed one goal or fewer. If you bump it up to 2 goals, we've gone 19 games, or almost half the season, 41% of the team. Absolutely, Kevin. The team toughness is lacking, and we don't have to have a team of John Scotts, but when Eric Johnson gets just absolutely wrecked in the behind the net with a dirty hit, you can't just have Victor Olofsson skate over and pat the guy on the back. There's got to be a better response to it. Eric Johnson actually had a good response to when Dahlin got hit. Maybe it was a little ill-timed, but, at that point, you've gotta make those, gotta stand up for your teammates. And you can't just stand up for a couple teammates. You gotta stand up for the entire roster. If somebody hits your guy dirty, it's the whole, put one of ours in the hospital, we'll put 6 years in the morgue. That's the attitude that should be there with the Sabres. Not even if you fight and lose, stand up. Make them pay a price for actually trying to go after your guys. Because what we've seen is they go after our guys and we melt, and all that does is encourage the opposing teams to do it more. So yeah, absolutely. But if you bump up the stat to 2 goals or fewer a game, it's 19 games. It's almost 41% of the time. We are 0-19 in those games. We don't win low scoring close games. We're 0-19 when we score 2 goals or fewer. We got 3 goals against San Jose. We got 3 goals against Chicago. We got 5 goals against Well, 5 goals against the Ottawa Senators in that homestand. The most important homestand of the season. We finished 3-3 on that. Where I mean, I went into that saying we have to go 5-1. I was willing to accept if we could beat Tampa 4-2, still puts us in a position where if we swept the 3-game road trip, we'd be in a decent position coming out of the All-Star break. It's not there anymore. That path is rapidly closing and will take a feat of Herculean efforts for us to be able to compete in the second, not even the second half, the final third of the season to try and secure a playoff spot. We're at 46 games now. There's only 36 games left in this season, and by the time we get to the All-Star break, we're down to 33 games. And how can we make up ground? We're not playing any of the teams that we play that we're behind. We're on the West Coast, so the nice thing about playing West Coast teams is it doesn't matter whether you go to overtime or not. Just get the win, get the 2 points. The 3-point games hurt you more on the East Coast, but still, uh, you know, this team has to perform and it's not. And that's the thing that's been most troubling. So let's talk about the Ducks. They're coming into tonight's game at a record of 15-30-1. They're 7th in the Pacific, saying thank God for San Jose because they would be dead last in the Pacific. They're actually the third worst team in the NHL, just ahead of Chicago. Frankie Vetrano leads the team in goals and points, and Troy Terry leads the team in assists. Their goaltending, they're not scoring enough. That's one of the main issues for the Anaheim Ducks. When you look at their goaltending numbers, they're actually a little bit better than Buffalo's, which is not saying much, but they're not scoring a whole lot of goals. This is kind of a mirror image game for us. And so honestly, if we lose this game, and there's a chance, like there's a case to be made that this is a trap game for the Buffalo Sabres because tomorrow night they play the Los Angeles Kings, and I'm sure that there are players in that room that are looking more towards that Kings game as a tougher opponent than the Anaheim Ducks. So it's absolutely a trap. It's absolutely a trap game. And we'll talk about what's going on with that. But last meeting, this is the first meeting of the season. I believe we won both games last season against the Ducks. Although UPL's first game in the NHL was the game where Trevor Zegras went behind the net and flipped the puck over to Sonny Milano, who scored that ridiculous batted out of the air goal. I still think it was a high stick, but they were never going to call that back just because it was the optics of it was so awesome. But yeah, that was UPL's first start in the NHL and first loss. That was a 1-0 game in Buffalo. That was a tough one to watch. Let's take a look at the Ducks' projected forward lines from Daily Faceoff. Adam Henrique, Carlson, and Terry. Frankie Vetrano with McTavish and Strome. Jakob Silverberg, Lundstrom, and Leeson. On the fourth line, Johnston, Carrick, and Gruel. For the defensive pairings, we've got Cam Fowler and Lacombe, Vakarainen, and Radko Gudas. Circle that name. We know Gudas is a banger, and we'll take every chance to punish a forward in the corner that he can get. Former Sabre alert, Robert Haig is on the third defensive pairing with Lindstrom. There's apparently some kind of rookie that might be starting, so I don't know where he's a defenseman, so I don't know who's going to come in or out for the Ducks for this rookie, highly touted rookie to come in. His name escapes me at this point. But the Ducks goalies, the last report was Jonathan Gibson will be getting the start. Eric Dolstall is the backup for the Ducks. Gibson, there's always been that the Sabres should go out and get Jonathan Gibson. He's got a big contract, and I think he's got a no movement clause, or at least a modified no movement clause, and which means he presents a list of teams he will not accept a trade to. I don't know. He would accept a trade to Buffalo. They don't play defense in front of really good defense. UPL has really had to stand on his head the last week and a half trying to get wins for this team. So I don't know that Gibson is the answer. I would actually rather have Eric Dostal. I think Dostal's actually got a pretty good future ahead of him. Duck scratches, lots of IR. This has been a theme with some of these teams that are on the bottom of the standings. So Trevor Zegras is out like 4 to 8 weeks, or 6 to 8 weeks with a broken ankle. Max Jones is on IR. Pavel Mintyukov is on IR, and Alex Killorn is on IR. Again, all these guys have been injured relatively recently and are out multiple weeks. So um, tough losses for the lineup. The Ducks have had struggles over the last couple months, getting some goals. In fact, they've benched Trevor Zegras at a couple points of the season. So, the last year's cover guy of the NHL 24 series is having a rough go of it. But broke his ankle and it's been a tough year for him. So hopefully this will allow him to get reset, refreshed, and come back strong. Because Trevor Zegras is a phenomenally talented kid, but he's just languishing on a really bad team. And I wouldn't be surprised if things continue to go bad for Zegras for him to really agitate for a trade. Because Anaheim really looks like it's going to be not this year, not next year, maybe the year after they start making the turnaround. That's how bad they've gotten. Sabres projected forward lines. Last we got, I think Lance Lasowski reported these out. So Skinner, Thompson, Tuck, Benson, Middlestat, Paterka, Greenway, Cousins, Quinn, Gergensons, Krebs, Poso, kind of the close to where you would expect the lines to be on this team with the current lineup. Not a big surprise there. Looks like we'll get to that when we talk about the scratches, but it looks like Olafson's back out of the lineup. Um, Sabres defensive pairings, Rasmus Dahlin with Samuelson, Ryan Johnson with Owen Power, which I didn't think they looked bad together, Johnson and Power. So maybe we found a guy to pair with Owen Power that will hopefully bring out both of their games. Henry Jokiharju in the lineup with Connor Clifton. Uh, Eric Johnson has joined the team on this trip, but unless he is a late addition to the lineup, it will be Jokiharju with Clifton. Starting goalies, last I saw was Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I would almost start Devin Levi in this game, and we can talk about Sabres goalies at this point. I don't agree with Devin Levi being on this trip at all. So before the Saturday game, I actually didn't even see the news that they had sent Devin Levi down to Rochester to play because UPL was starting the Tampa game. It'd been a while since Levi had gotten in. The Seattle game was his last game, so they decided to send him down to Rochester. They're playing at home. They played the Springfield Thunderbirds, St. Louis's top team, and we'll get to that when we talk about the. But he didn't look good. I'll just lay it out like he didn't look good in that game, and I'm not sure why they called him back up to go on this Western road trip. Let him sit down in Rochester through the All-Star break, get games in Rochester during the All-Star break. This whole I could not disagree more with the management of what they've done with the goalies this year. It's just nonsensical. But let's see, Robinson and Eric Johnson are out. Johnson day to day still. Olofsson out as a healthy scratch as well with Robinson. Let's talk about tonight's odds per DraftKings. They have Buffalo as a 1.5 favorite on the road. I think maybe one or twice. I think the only other time they've been a road favorite is when they played Chicago earlier this season and didn't cover because it was a 1 goal game. I think they were a 1.5 favorite. Over under 6.5. I think that's generous. I would be if I was betting. And I've learned my lesson many times about betting. But if I was betting, I'd probably take the under just because both teams struggling at scoring. Now that being said, when you have the movable object versus the but whatever that saying is, that that doesn't bode well. We could see just an absolute goal fest, but hopefully Hopefully this game's a blowout because I got to get up early in the morning to go to work, and I can maybe skip the third period, but I got a feeling this will the way that the Sabres have showed up for the last few games. I don't know that they're going to show up early in this game. All right, three keys to the game. Speaking of showing up ready to play. This is the third game in a row I put this up here. The three keys to the game: show up ready to play, score early and often, don't let the Ducks hang around. It's that simple. They did not show up to ready to play the last three games. They took forever to score against both San Jose and Chicago. Yes, they won those games 3-0. Both of those games they had to get that third goal. Well, I'm sorry, the third goal in the Chicago game was via the power play, but still very late in the game. Game was really kind of decided at that point, but still just not scoring. And they let those teams hang around. And if we were playing more competent teams, we would have paid for those mistakes, and we did against the Lightning. So don't let the Ducks hang around. Score early and often. Show up ready to play. These are just basic things that you should be learning when you're a peewee. But these guys just fail to learn this lesson, and it's we're getting close to it. We're getting close to Groundhog Day, but it feels like that. All right, Stu, on this date, January 23rd, 1984, the Sabres wrap up a franchise record 10-game winning streak. I'd like to see one of those. On the way to an 11-0-2 January with a 5-3 win at Boston. We could certainly use a streak of 10 games. And having an 11-0-2 anywhere within the next 30 days would be fantastic. I don't think we're going to get it. Let's see. On the farm, Rochester, the Amherst. I talked about Devin Levi coming down. So Linus Weissbach scored a pair of goals. And Devin Levi stopped 14 of 17 shots in a 7-3 win over Springfield. He was lucky that they dropped a touchdown on the Thunderbirds. Again, nothing about that start gives me any confidence that of him playing either tonight or tomorrow. And being a rock if the Sabres do it. If the Sabres come out and not score the first period and a half of the game, are we still going to be level because Devin Levi is standing on his head? I don't have any confidence they can do it. And if you're playing Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen tonight, are you giving Devin Levi the game against the Kings? I mean, if we lose to the Ducks, I mean, might as well. The season's shot. Absolutely. We lose to the Ducks, it's stick a fork in it time. The doctor will come in and call it and put a toe tag on this season. So, but the Amherst are 19-13-3-1. They are up to third in the AHL North Division, so they're moving in the right direction. Hopefully, they continue to perform well. They're doing this largely without scoring from Uri Kulik. He's struggled a little bit. It's almost the opposite of what happened last season when he came back from the World Juniors, where he, came out and really started producing well after the World Juniors. This time he's come in and he's been real slow. I mean, I think he's got maybe a couple of assists in his entire time back from the World Juniors. So would like to see him start getting going, but the team is playing well, and you got to figure that eventually his game is really going to start to take off here soon. So let's go to the Amherst will take on the Utica Devils on Friday at home. So we won't have an update tomorrow night when we play the LA Kings for the show. For the Jacksonville Icemen, they are 21-15-3 and second in the ECHL Eastern Conference South Division. Damian Giroux, who just finished a spell with the Rochester Americans, has been tearing it up. Added a pair of goals on Friday. Olivia Nadeau, one of our prospects that are actually playing for the Jacksonville Icemen, Nadeau, I'm sorry, is also scored a pair of goals, one on Friday, one on Saturday. They split the pair this weekend against the top team in the ECHL, the Greenville Swamp Rabbits, which is LA's ECHL team. They won 5-2 on Friday, losing 3-1 on Saturday. They play Savannah on Friday at home. I think that's in Savannah. So But yeah, play in Savannah on Friday. So that is the Vegas Golden Knights ECHL affiliate. But that team seems to be going pretty well as well. They did get the loss this weekend, but they are moving up the standings. They're now up to second in the ECHL South Division. So let's see the week ahead. We only have 2 more games the rest of this week, as Saturday is the start of the All-Star break, or at least last game for the All-Star break for us. The Los Angeles Kings, January 24th, and then San Jose on January 27th. So Saturday is the final game. Our next episode is going to be 9:30 on tomorrow night as we take on the Los Angeles Kings. This is extreme late night hockey as we start at 10:30 uh, Eastern time for all of us here on the East Coast. So it'll be late night hockey, um, kind of normal night hockey if you're out there on the West Coast and enjoying the Buffalo Sabres. Although it's kind of hard to enjoy the Buffalo Sabres this season. So anyway, that is the show. We are let's see, we are 35 minutes away from puck drop. Go check out Sabres game night on actually no, it's a national broadcast. I forget. It's on ESPN. So I don't think there was a Sabres game night. Um, I'm not a real fan of ESPN's coverage of NHL hockey. I'm not a real fan of John Buccigross. Buccigross is going to call this game. Um, I'm not a fan of the whole catchphrase um, play by play. So uh, enjoy it as much as you can. I'll uh, I'll watch as much as I can tonight. I do have to get up at 6 in the morning, so um, but hopefully they'll entertain me while I am still awake. Anyway, enjoy the rest of the night. Have a great night. We will talk to you all tomorrow night on the next episode of the Scabbard. Have a good one, everybody.